Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have Ruth Kelly Waskett. Did I pronounce that correctly? Waskett?
Yes, you did. Well done.
Okay, good, good. Ruth is a lighting consultant with a background in engineering, lighting design, and academia. She's passionate about the role of daylight and sunlight in bringing buildings to life and the impact of daylight exposure on health and well being of building occupants. She started out as a building services engineer before specializing in lighting. She is the president of the Society of Light and Lighting, the SLL, a part of the Chartered Institution of Building Services Engineers, the CIBSE. She led the revision of the SSL Daylighting Design Guide in 2014 and is a regular contributor to various CIBSE and SLL guidance documents. She is also a visiting lecturer at Bartlett School, UCL, with involvement in the MSc in light and lighting, and I guess that's engineering and architectural engineering. But before we get there, Greg, we got to talk about light efficient design. That's led-llc.com, brother. What do they got?
All right, and you're going to see it on screen here, but the LBI linear transformer is one light with unlimited possibilities. It's available in 2-foot, 3-foot, and 4-foot lengths. It's both flex color and flex lumen wattage. So you can change your color, you can change your lumens. 0 to 10 volt dimmable, easily connectable end to end. So you wire in one end, you can connect them together and run a continuous row. It can be used as a retrofit kit in troffer, strip, fixtures, wraps, vapor tights, high bays, or as a new fixture, cove lighting, stairwells, continuous run ambient, you name it. It does it all. Check it out.
You know what I love about light efficient design? That's led-llc.com. They're so creative, Greg.
They are.
If you're a lighting distributor, they're not copycats. They're always coming out with new hot stuff that you should check out, especially when you're solutions focused, like Greg and I, or a nail distributor, trying to help out your clients. You got to go to led-llc.com. Ask for Doug Nebelsberger. He's the man down there. Doug's phone's going to blow up now, Greg. And of course, Light Efficient Design is a proud member of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's right. Greg and I are both longtime members, both served on the board. What about you? You're going to support your industry? That's right. If you're an lighting heavy electrical distributor or a lighting distributor, this is your association. So join us, naild.org, baby. What's happening, Ruth?
Well, I don't know. Where do you want to start? I just moved house, so I'm still a bit disorientated. But apart from that, I'm looking forward to talking about lighting.
Well, it's always fun. Greg, why don't you fire it up here? You do a little
Let's
more
start
prep
off
than
with,
me.
yeah, so you have, we heard your background, you're a little bit about your bio, but what do you do on a day-to-day basis? What's your company? What are you guys all about?
So I work for a company called Horley LLP to be precise. And we're a multidisciplinary engineering consultancy, and we mainly operate in the UK. But funnily enough, just a few months ago, we became part of Tetratec, who are mainly based in the US, and in a very international organization. And we're now part of what's called the Tetratec High Performance Building Group, which comprises Horley, Glumac, Cosentini, and NDY. So the idea is that we've now kind of filled in the global puzzle in terms of coverage internationally. So I'm really excited about hopefully getting to work on more projects outside of the UK, particularly in North America. It's something that I've wanted to do more of, because I think obviously the science is the same regardless of where you go, but there are lots of things that are different culturally and in terms of climate. From a daylight point of view, that's really interesting. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Why is it
So
that they,
yeah,
or sorry, why
sorry.
is it that they were interested in acquiring you guys? Why did Tetra Tech get involved?
So my understanding, it's kind of, I touched on it, but basically they'd already acquired NDY, Cosentini, and Glumac. Each of those have been part of Tetra Tech for a few years, varying lengths. And I think there was a bit of a gap in the European sort of region, because those organizations have really good coverage for East and West Coast, North America, and Southeast Asia, Australasia, but not really so much Europe. So they that's my understanding, is that, you know, strategically it was important. But honestly, I've been told, and I believe that they saw that Horley was a really successful organization, and they wanted that to be part of the high performance buildings group in particular. So yeah, it's really good, and we're so far enjoying just getting to know our new kind of brother and sister organizations, and hopefully, you know, getting some cross pollination going in terms of sharing ideas, and joining forces. So it's really good.
So we spoke to a fellow at Underwriters Laboratory, the UL, and
Hmm.
they're coming up with a certification called marketing verification. Okay. So they're going
Okay.
to verify people's marketing claims. I'm looking at the Tetratec website. There's a lot of marketing claims that are just swinging by here, and I'm reading
Mm,
them. And
mm,
I know that daylight good, right? So the more daylight we get into a building, just the better off. Like that's where there's massive gains for human health, wellness, people's experience. How, in Sweden, everybody has to have a view of the outside in all new buildings, so anywhere a desk is, and so we know that daylight is very important. But when we're using technology, and this is what I asked the UL fellow about, it's very easy to make claims where the negative is gone, right? So you have different the well building standards, another one of these. Okay, so you say our light source does not flicker. Our light source reduces the blue wave intensity at certain times so that you don't have that. So when you're removing the negative, it's very easy to verify. When we start to get into these positive claims about
mm,
things, I find that we're in a more of a dicey situation because you have to then measure and verify the claim post installation. And so there's a lot of
mm.
things swinging by here. You're definitely Tetra Tech seems like an integrated group. They do a lot of different things with buildings.
Yes,
How
yeah, that's correct.
how do you tackle that negative versus positive? Okay, so we removed the negative. Now we're actually doing things that are positive. How do we handle that?
So yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, and I'd love to know more about the UL plan for a system to verify marketing claims, because yeah, there's some really interesting stuff out there in the
Hmm.
lighting world in particular. Um, I think the key, you touched on it when you said, you know, it needs post occupancy evaluation, and we don't do enough of that, and it's a
Hmm.
great source of, you know, I'm not happy about it. I would like clients to be able to engage us so that we're still there when the building is built, so that we can go in and actually understand what we've designed, what the impact of that is on the people in the building. It's so important for us. I know that there's moves in the industry at large, so it's not just lighting, but in general, when it comes to HVAC and building services, there are moves to do more post occupancy evaluation, and also to measure the performance of the equipment as well. So it's not
Hmm.
just about the impact directly on humans, but the carbon footprint, as it were. So measuring the performance of the equipment to see if it actually does what it was designed to do. So I'd love to see that happening more. I think that with some of it, though, it's probably almost impossible to ever verify. So, you know, we can say things based on people's testimony. They preferred it, they liked it, they found that they had more customers coming through the door, or whatever the building type is relevant. You don't ever, you know, you can't say that that's scientific. It's based on
Hmm.
testimony. And of course, we hear what we want to hear. So we will seek out the people that we know like what we've done to hear
Hmm.
what they have to say about it.
Confirmation
So
bias for sure.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's interesting because this is why I talk about negative versus positive. So removing a negative is measurable instantaneously. Like you can say, yes, the flicker is less than this much per whatever amount of flicker you have, or the blue light is gone. We've measured it on our measurement here. It's gone, so it's not there. It's easy to verify the absence of something, you know? Whereas it's
Mm,
much more difficult as we move forward in this industry into this area of improving people's health. So, for example, another example would be, we were talking about it yesterday, Greg, the nouveau stuff from Energy Focus, where you have active air disinfection, right? So we have this system where it sucks up this thing and it kills bacteria. We're removing something. That's always so much easier to verify than these ideas that this is a more healthy building to live in. Is that because
Mm,
um, daylight? Yes, I agree. There's no problem there. We're 100% on the same page with that one. I just get concerned when, people are talking about productivity improvements or less sick days. And I'm just like, well,
mm,
how are we going to set up a verification of that return on investment post project? And how are we going to avoid the traps of the confirmation bias, the
mm.
Gucci suit effect? You know what I'm saying, Ruth? Have you guys tackled that
Yeah,
at all?
I do. Yeah, I mean, this has come up a few times because I've had colleagues say to me, can you help me with this? Let's say we're doing a pitch for a project. They'll say, I want to tell them that lighting, that good lighting will help. Can you give me some sources that tell me about, how much it improves productivity? And I'm always like, that's just too reductive. It's so difficult, especially in the world we live in now. To measure productivity is extremely complex
Hmm.
because we're not on a production line. I mean, some of us are, but many of us are not in buildings. So you can't measure output in those terms. And then the other thing that I've personally reflected on with this is the fact that when it comes to even the number of sick days, for example, as a metric, it's fraught with difficulty because that's got so many other contributing factors that have nothing to do with the lighting or even
Hmm.
the environmental conditions. So we know that the lighting might be great, but if there's a toxic work culture, then there's
Hmm.
going to be people not turning up and, feeling having even reduced immunity, because of not feeling great and being stressed, and vice versa. So, I do find those things very difficult. I know that attempts have been made to measure those things, but they find that it's very difficult to isolate, the individual components that are at play. Um, yeah, so and also even just things like furniture, you can have great lighting, but if the chairs are uncomfortable, do you know what I mean? And it's
Yeah, for
really
sure. It's
difficult.
endless. It's actually
Yeah,
endless.
endless, endless.
Right?
Yeah,
It's one of those things where, when you hear about, like, there's more possible outcomes in chess than subatomic particles in the universe. It's one of those things. You know what I mean? Where
yeah,
it looks like a simple chessboard, but there's actually, if you calculate all the different things, it's absolute. It's one of those things. It's like tic tac toe, and chess are the same game. They're both finite.
yeah,
If everybody plays a
yeah,
perfect game, it should always end in a draw, but
yeah,
it's beyond human comprehension to understand. And so chess is, tic tac toe isn't. So tic tac toe
yeah,
almost always ends in a draw, whereas chess almost never does. Sometimes it does, but very
yes,
rarely. And so that's because it's beyond human comprehension. And I think where we're at with this health effects is really, there's so many factors that are beyond that we can't even understand all the factors at play, never mind measure anything. Do you agree with that, Ruth?
yeah, absolutely. And I'm reminded of someone whose work I really admire, Jennifer Veach, based in
Mm-hmm.
Canada.
Yep.
She years ago she tried to um, create a model for what was going on, what the interactions are between some of these different elements, with lighting, being the core one. Um, and even then, I think, I'm not saying that that wasn't a useful piece of work, because it certainly was, and it moved the conversation on. But I think that it highlights the fact that you could model the behavior in a particular building and model what contributes to people's decisions about whether they want more light or less light. But even then, you haven't taken into account the fact that each individual brings their own history. So
Mm-hmm.
their photic history, but also their history, and
Sure.
we've got all kinds of things going on,
Sure. And there's
so
cultural
all of
differences
that.
to how we use electric
Yes.
light, for sure. Like Swedes and
Yeah.
people from Pakistan completely use electric light differently. What would be interesting,
Yes.
what I would like to see is, how to put this the right way, is I think that the fundamental difference here is if we're going to have healthy lighting, it has to be a prescription. Like you can't give people the control and tell them that it's now going to improve their circadian rhythm. Those two things don't go together, right? Either you're getting hit with that 5,000 lux of whatever Kelvin, 5,500 Kelvin at 8 in the morning when you wake up, and then you're down to 2,200 Kelvin at 9 o'clock at night, and there's no blue light, or it isn't. You understand what I mean? That you can't
Yeah.
have it both ways. I would like to see, two apartment buildings. This is quite common in Toronto where you have identical buildings. And they have lots of
Mm,
people living in it, so 500 families in each building or something like that. And you do
mm,
one with prescripted, this is how it's going to be, and you do the other one where you give them the control, very simple controls over their lighting, and then measure and see after if there's any benefits. Because to me, the problem comes in when we offer people controls over their lighting. They can tune it, they can dim it, they can do whatever they want with it, and then we're still claiming that there's, I'm going to say, circadian rhythm benefits to that lighting.
mm, mm,
That
mm,
can't happen if they can control
mm.
it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it does. But let me just, so there's a few things in there. One of the things that is really difficult about this is that with medicine, you can say, I'm going to give this group the pill and I'm going to give them the placebo. And you know that they're, as long as they're following your instructions, they're taking that medicine at the same time every day or whatever it is for a period of time. But with light, we are, we're walking around consuming light in so many different ways. So it's more analogous to diet because we eat lots of different food and each of
Mm-hmm.
us will eat different food on different days and depending on what we're doing, whether we're on holiday or we're at work. And light is like that. So we've got this incredibly dynamic mix of one day you wake up and you go out for a walk, the next day you don't, and the day after you go on public transport, and the day after that you go in a car. So
Yeah,
you're getting different light exposure both from daylight and artificial light the
sure.
whole time. So that's why it's impossible to create that kind of almost vacuum where you can isolate everything else except the light. And any work that's been done that has looked at the impact of light has only ever been able to do it short term because of that, because of it being based in a lab. So, you're only able to measure, say, the impact on cognitive function within a 2 hour period, and those studies are really interesting, but they can't always show the circadian benefit. And I know that there have been other studies that have attempted to show the circadian benefit, but ultimately, um, you can't do it properly unless you tell the person to put like blackouts on their eyes and not have any other light, exposure. So it's really difficult. It is really
I love
complicated.
the English word confounding. It's what it is. You can't
Yes,
find it. It's
yes.
impossible to find. It's confounding, right?
Mm,
I love
yeah.
your analogy to diet as well because there's, when you talk to people that are passionate about a certain diet, it
Mm,
sounds a lot like lighting people, actually. You could run into a vegan that tells you you're a murderer for eating meat. Then you run into a carnivore and he tells you you're an idiot for not meat. Like people get really passionate about it. And the
yeah,
fact is that, hey, I eat vegetables and I eat meat. Okay. So I'm with both of
yeah,
you halfway. Okay. So
yeah.
it's kind of like with lighting. I think we need to avoid this. I think we have to be very careful, especially as designers or distributors, in making these kinds of positive claims. That's where I think I'm kind
Okay.
of going, where
Mm,
I think, when I was speaking with Jennifer Veach, she actually came in studio here to Get a Grip Studios because it's in Toronto. And
yeah, good.
we came up with the conclusion that humans are kind of like, with light, are kind of like fish figuring out they're in the water right now. You know what I'm saying? It's like we don't
Yes,
even really know
yes.
what this radiant energy is, and yet we're deploying it in a manner that might work, might not work. We're kind of figuring out
Mm,
things as we go along right now, which I think is fascinating.
yeah, yeah, it is fascinating. And when we look back, I know we will recognize that we're right at the beginning. But On the other side of that, I do think one of the principles that I've tried to bring into play is do no harm. So I think as long as we're not hurting people by the lighting solutions that we implement, then that's something. So we can
Hmm.
at least say we're not making things worse for you. We're not um, d- degrading your sleep quality. We're not, making you feel socially jet lagged, or whatever it is. Then I think we're onto something. It sounds like a very low bar to aim for, that the lighting is harmless, but
Well,
I
I'm just
think
trying.
it does help us. Yeah.
Greg signaled something to me, and I think where we should explore more. I do think you're 100% correct. We had a fellow on the show, and great guy, but he was talking about 2000 lux vertically. Well, because it matches the sun's Kelvin, and like there's a lot of assumptions in that are like, have you ever been in a paint booth? That's where that kind of light level is, and you feel the pressure
Mm,
of the light. It's a lot of light. It's not the same as being outside on the beach on a sunny day. It doesn't feel the same way. It feels like very intrusive. But you know what I
mm,
think? And I know Greg was pointing, he wants to bring it back to something, but I think right now we're on the stretch of it. I think we should just handle it. I think cueing or the combination of general lighting and theatrical lighting is a very interesting place for us to go. Rather than worried about circadian rhythm, can we wake up people easier by starting at 2200 Kelvin at a dim level and then slowly raising that light level in the NICU wards or where the mothers are with their
mm,
babies so that people get woken up gentler? Can we tell them to
mm,
leave? And this is what Andrea Wilkerson at PNNL has been discovering, that we can
mm,
actually use these theatrical principles in daily life to tell people what to do. Mark Ray discovered this too with the vertical orientation for old folks, where they get up in the middle of the night and a light comes on that's vertical that helps them stop from
yes.
falling. You know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's really interesting. Yeah, and what you were saying about Andrea Wilkerson's work, that's also
Mm-hmm.
really interesting. And I do think one of the things that we have learned is that it's not as simple as uh, blue rich light, makes you more alert, because actually just an increased illuminance level makes you more
Mm-hmm.
alert. So it doesn't have to contain a particular spectrum, because sometimes quantity can trump spectrum in terms of
Mm-hmm.
how it affects you. So we certainly can play with just quantity, but I love the idea of using the theatrical tools, because
Mm-hmm.
that just works on lots of levels, because it introduces a much more dynamic and playful kind of environment,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that's really attractive. And it's something we try to do in our work. Some of the people in my team actually come from a theatre lighting background, and that makes their approach particularly refreshing, because they often use those techniques without even realizing it. And with the controls that we've got now, we can do so much more, with that. I wonder, do you think, are they ready for that? Like, are hospital and healthcare settings ready for theatre?
Well, here
I
I
don't mean
totally
operating theatre.
here's what was reported. So I don't know, remember exactly. They were trying to improve the circadian rhythm. I think that's what Andrea was doing. And then when she actually went and talked to the nurses, she says, "We don't know anything about the circadian stuff you're talking about, but man, it sure is easier to go into the NICU ward or wherever the mothers and babies are, and everybody's already awake. And I don't have to
Yeah,
wake
yeah.
people up from sleep and babies start crying. Everybody wakes up natural. And you know what else is really great? What's that? When you guys are dimming those lights at 8 o'clock and the light level changes the color and starts to dim down, people just leave. The visiting time ends on its own. People just say, hey,
Yeah,
geez,
yeah,
it's getting dark in here. I better get
yeah.
going. And so by
Mm,
doing this, they're cueing people. So they're actually waking up most of the people. They're signaling to most of
mm.
the people that it's time to go home.
Yeah,
And that,
that made me think of something really funny. In the UK and Ireland, and I don't know whether you get this over there, but in a nightclub at the end of the night, when they want to kick you out, they put the
Hmm.
lighting on really, really, really
yeah,
bright.
sure.
So it's kind of the same idea, but using a very different technique. And I think what's happening there is you make people feel uncomfortable, because suddenly they can see everything that they couldn't see in the dim light.
Well,
It
when I
doesn't
was
look so pretty anymore.
I was a bartender in Belfast. Okay,
Oh,
and
okay, yeah. So you'll
okay,
have
what would
seen this.
Yeah. So what happens is right at whatever it was 11 if they didn't have live music, and it was 1 if they had live music. I don't know what the live music thing was about, but they could stay open to 1. So at like 10 to 1, there's like the bar is packed, and you're giving everybody, get as many in you lads now as you can. Get as many in. Give me 4 of those beers
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
And they're
yeah.
going back to the tables. And then all of a sudden, these bouncers in Belfast wearing bulletproof vests come running in the bar at 1. You guys got to go right now. And I'm like, hey, guys, if you guys just stopped doing that, you'd probably have way less fights, and you wouldn't need the guys with the bulletproof vests on if you just shut it down at 12:30. Because first of
Yeah,
all, you
yeah.
have these guys that are throwing back 4 pints in 5 minutes, and then they're being approached by a guy and being dragged out of the bar. Well, what do you expect's going to happen? You got a drunk
It's a
guy.
perfect storm.
Yeah,
Perfect storm, isn't it?
cue him. Give him
Alcohol.
some
That's
cueing. Start
yeah,
raising the lights
yeah,
slowly so everyone knows. Um,
yeah,
yeah, so I think queuing is really an underexplored area with all this. Like what we could do. I even
yes,
think the George Floyd riots and all that. A lot of people say, "Well, outdoor light makes safety." When you watch those videos where it's happening at night, a lot of times you can see everything like daylight. And I wonder if
yeah,
that kind of maybe created the feeling like, oh, the cops need it so they can see everybody, but now everyone can see the cops too. Like it works both
yeah,
ways. Right?
yeah.
If they were to
Yeah.
just dim it down and warm it, I wonder if it would have caused people to go home. I just
Yeah,
wonder that.
do you know what? I think I bet you're right, and I wouldn't be surprised because light is such a powerful tool for these things
Hmm.
for cueing social behavior. And yeah, that's a really interesting point about the lighting at night because that's something else that I'm starting to learn more and more about. It's not my natural tendency because my background has focused on daylight and interior lighting, but I've been learning more about the impact of outdoor light at night on ecology.
Hmm.
And this idea that you light up an outside area to like daylight levels is just obscene
It is
in that
obscene. That's the right
regard.
word.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I also
And then in terms of how it makes people feel, yeah, I
yeah,
think
I don't think it's something new because all these cities would have been upgraded to those high brightness 5,000 Kelvin uniform
mm,
street light levels in the last 5 years. So it's not something where you can compare. In the past, it would have been all high pressure sodium, mostly high
yeah,
pressure sodium, low Kelvin temperature, not as clear to see, a little more scary maybe at night. And now you have it like, 200-watt, 5,000 K light fixture every 40 feet. It's uniform. You can see everything. Maybe you can even see better than you can during the day. Who
I
knows,
mean,
right?
in some parts of the UK, what they've done is they've done a direct swap from sodium to LED, and the uniformity has actually suffered because they haven't thought about the distribution of the fitting that they've
Hmm.
replaced it with. But yes, I know exactly what you mean, and I think there's a flatness to that, and
Hmm.
there's a kind of brutality to it,
Hmm.
to the high color temperature at night. And the word that's coming to me is jarring because psychologically
Hmm.
and in circadian terms, it's very disconcerting to find that kind of light hitting you at 9 o'clock at night or whatever time of the night it is. It's very unnatural, and sometimes I wonder how much that contributes to people's feeling of unease. So I agree with you, and there's something very special actually about that kind of yellow light. It has its obvious limitations. Color rendering's gone out the window, but there is something quite special about it. I think I didn't realize how nice it was until I had to live with the alternative, and then I realized that it had a lot going for it, and now I understand that actually from a spectrum point of view, it's probably a lot less harmful to have something like sodium than it is to have an LED with a higher blue content.
Hmm.
Obviously, it depends on the light levels, of
I
course, but
always I
yeah.
always try to like look at the opposite application and then kind of infer from there. So casinos have known how to disrupt people's circadian rhythm using lighting for decades and decades and decades.
Mm,
Right? They've known
yes.
this. You go into a casino, there's a lot of vertical white light coming at you. They've known this for a long
Yeah.
time. Okay?
That's really,
No
yeah, it's a really
clocks,
good point.
no
Mm,
the
yeah.
oxygen, no clocks, and then a lot of vertical light in the windows. Right? So it puts you into this like hypnotic state, but you're not slowing down, you're speeding up, which is interesting. The other thing is like take prison yards. There's a reason why prison yard is lit up like that, right? And so if you light the streets like a prison yard, maybe you get people to act like prisoners. I don't know. I'm just saying that you can take
Yeah,
an
yeah.
application and infer and take it and apply it somewhere else and say, hey, is this having the same effect? If you do it in poorer neighborhoods, they tend to have more light, keyhole to keyhole. This idea in Chicago, Southside Chicago, we're going to light it up keyhole to keyhole. Well, South Chicago is the most violent area in America still to this day, and they got tons of artificial electric lights down there. Maybe it's
It's
making the
like
problem
it.
worse.
Yeah, it's like CCTV. I mean, I've read a few times that the UK has the highest number of CCTV cameras in Europe, and yet, it doesn't bear, there isn't a direct proportional relationship with a reduction in crime at all. In fact, it might be the opposite. So I agree with you. And that's an interesting analogy about the casinos, because I've been talking to someone about a potential conversion of a current casino to an office, because it turns out the casino isn't really working very well from a business point of view anymore. I don't know whether that's a global trend or not. Um, and they want to reduce the casino and increase the office space. And the interesting thing, of course, is that all the windows that are there have been blocked up because they don't want people to know what time it is. So you're absolutely right. And they do employ that classic technique of cut people off from daylight, because that's a huge cue for understanding where we are in time and even in space. So it's disorientating you in terms of where you are in this massive floor plan, because you can't see the relationship between you and outside anymore. And yeah, it's a great technique. I like that. You look at the opposite use and then you learn. And yeah, and I also always thought that airports have operated in a similar way
Hmm.
historically. They've employed the same techniques, where people kind of, they want people to feel a bit disorientated, because perhaps it's shown that they'll just spend more money and buy more stuff in the shops.
Yeah. Well, you know what? The other thing I think that, and if I may make a suggestion, we often talk about lighting, but darkness is a cue as well. And so
Yes.
the idea that we're the lighting industry, I think, we do a podcast called Starving for Darkness. Naild sponsors it as well. I think we need to start thinking about as practitioners like yourself. I wouldn't consider myself practitioner. I'm more of a light bulb slinger than anything else. But
I like
I would I would say that we should think of it as the lighting and darkness industry, like the practitioners, because when you're talking about casino, it's not that they can't see the light out the window; it's that they can't see the dark. They can't see that it's
Yes, they
dark
can't
outside.
see they can't see what it is, whether it's light or
Hmm.
dark. You're right.
Hmm.
You're right. And actually, a few months back when I became SLL president, I was talking about light and dark, and about the fact that they are both very intrinsic parts of health, and how it's like you might get the light right during the day, but then if at night you have too much artificial light, you'll really mess that, you'll just undo all the work. So it's the two sides of the coin, absolutely.
The
So
problem
maybe
is
we
we
should
can
be the light
create
and
one
dark
and not the
industry.
other. We can create one and we're not
Yes,
the other. That's the problem
well,
with it.
we can create one, but we can also control it to create darkness. We can be architects of darkness, because we can decide when to withdraw that light, when to reduce it, and when to not light. And this is the thing that I think we're grappling with as an industry as well, is, just because you can light that thing, should you
Hmm.
light it?
Sure.
Particularly when we're talking about outside, but even when we're talking about inside a building, when we're thinking about energy, we really do have to ask ourselves, just because you can light that thing, and I'm sure you can make it look really beautiful, there's no question about that, but that's not enough anymore, not in the world we live in now, not in the climate crisis.
I think that's why we have to follow the queuing. But I'll give it like that's where I think the queuing is really the Rosetta Stone for the health effects. Where we get if we
Mm,
see what we can make people do. I hate to say that because the nudge units have kind of been very controversial in the
mm,
UK. This idea
mm,
of, I was reading about
yeah,
that in 2012, and I thought, I don't know if this is going to end well. You have
yeah,
psychologists working for the government trying to, I don't know if that sounds so
yeah,
great. But anyway, if we
Yeah.
can nudge people to do positive things for themselves, leave the waiting room or wake up in the morning or whatever, I think it's something to follow the research down, Greg. I'm going to put it on. I've
Yeah.
stolen the podcast here, so I got to
Sorry.
get it
No,
over to
that's good.
Greg.
All good. Yeah, and you, I think Ruth, you were just starting to, or you're kind of touching on it, and a lot of what you said before, I'm guessing is, but Horley's philosophy is a North Star philosophy. Can you dive more into what that means?
Yeah, so the North Star is something we've just announced, and it's a really exciting manifesto, if you like, about what we want to do as a business. And it's because we recognize that it's not enough to just want to add value for our clients anymore. We all as individuals want more meaning in our work. I think that's something that a lot of people around the world are experiencing now in the post-pandemic world in particular. People are looking at their work and sort of wanting to know that they're doing something that means something to them. We don't all have the luxury of being able to do that, but at Horley, we're lucky enough to be able to do that, to be able to stop and look at what we're doing and understand how we can um, harness the meaning of it. And so, essentially, what we're trying to do is create. The reason why we've called it North Star is because we want it to be a unifying goal for everybody who works there. So it's something that you can always see, as in the North Star, something that you can always look up and see, and that you can always connect with, and it helps you to orientate yourself. And what we really want, the aspiration is that it helps us um, to approach certain projects um, with particular values in mind, and it may also, we hope, shape the kind of work we do. And there are some difficult conversations there, because the corollary of that is that it could cause us to not want to work on certain projects, to not want to work for certain clients. We want our clients to be on the journey with us. So we want to we want them to understand at the outset that this is what's important to us, and we want there to be hopefully synergy between what we believe in and what our clients believe in. And one of the key parts of all of that is net zero carbon. And most of our clients, if not all of them now, are asking us, how can you we need help. Can you please help us to reduce our carbon footprint? So that's what we really want to do. Bearing in mind that buildings account for the vast majority um, of the CO2 production in the UK, we really want to be able to uh, take the opportunity that we have as engineers to reduce that. Um, I must emphasize as well that Horley, we are an engineering firm, and the vast majority of the people that work there are trained or have an engineering background. But we've also, in many of our areas of business, we are designers, we're people from product design backgrounds, theatre backgrounds. So in the lighting team, for example, most of the people in the team are not engineers. But you understand that really the whole philosophy is for everyone who works there, regardless of their discipline. The whole point is that we recognize that we have the power to have a positive impact. I mean, in a way, it's kind of back to what you were saying about positive impacts being harder to measure, but we do know enough to know that we can make a difference here. So that's what we'd really like to do.
Got two questions about that North Star
Mm,
policy. The first
mm,
one, to me, it strikes me it has to be a partnership between the company and the employee. So for me, like as an employer, when I'm training someone or whatever, every job has a depth of meaning to it that's not seen on the surface. Like you have to get into your work. You have to find a way that books about work. There's like that the you have to find a way to get into the zone. And you see people. I love bartending. Why? Because they get into a zone when they don't like a quiet bar. They like a busy bar. When they're bartending, they like to be
mm,
moving. They like to turn off their mind and dive into their work. And then and all of a sudden 6 hours goes by because you're in that zone. of optimal performance. And so that has to be a choice. Like, are you going to choose to get into this job? It's almost like the JFK question, ask not what your company can do for you, but what you can do for your company. It almost comes down to that, because you can make platitudes all you want, like Horalee could announce a North Star strategy, but if the people are not engaged, if the people are not choosing to have that kind of employment experience, it's going to end up being a sort of a false. You guys have taken on a
Mm.
big thing there, because
Yeah.
it's like you have to get buy-in from the people, and then you got to get rid of the people that don't buy in, because they're going to drag others down. You know,
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
nothing's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something there that you've pointed out that is intrinsic in the policy, and we've taken the bold step of saying we sometimes have to recognize that people who don't share our beliefs are not helping, so there are some difficult sort of questions that people have to ask themselves, and we are asking quite a big commitment from our employees, because we're asking them to believe in this. And if people don't believe in it, then we're saying that maybe you don't want to be here, and that's quite brutal. um, but I think it comes from the fact that, on by and large, we feel that everybody really does uh, want to find this deeper level of meaning to what we do, and they want to believe that as a company, that's part of our overall objective, that we're not just there as a profit making machine. Because and I learned something a few months back, and I'm going to do it a terrible disservice because I don't know the theory very well, but it's about the why, it's not about the what. So when you look at in the world of business, you sometimes see companies that have been extremely successful, and when you delve into it, you realize that they don't lead with what they do, they lead with why they do it. That's what they actually lead with. It's not just about, yeah, we make, this, or we do that. It's about, we believe in, this. What's important to us is this. And what happens then is that it becomes a more collaborative environment where your clients or your customers are share they're deciding to share in your belief with you by engaging with you. So they're not just saying, I need a thing and you make that thing. It's a much deeper connection. So it could be very rewarding for everybody. If it as long as it works, which, I share your belief that it's a challenge, and we haven't set ourselves an easy task. And the key
Mhm.
to it will be engagement and making sure that everyone in the firm doesn't think that this is an empty kind of marketing ploy, because
Mhm.
I really, really, really do not want that. And I want to make sure, all of my concerns thus far have been around, what does this really mean? So North Star looks great on paper, but what does
Mhm.
this really mean? How is
Sure.
this going to translate into what we actually do? So, just in the lighting team, in fact, yesterday we had a group call where we started to really delve into what the North Star is going to mean for us in our practice, and how it's going to impact our day-to-day activities and the choices that we make.
Well, it's interesting because you're talking about cult formation. I hate to say it that way. Okay. Yeah, like, but I mean that's what you're talking about, because now, like, I was an English lit student, and I love synonyms and antonyms, because oftentimes a synonym is not actually a synonym. Like, envy and jealousy are opposites. They're not even close to the same thing. Like, they're actually opposites. But if you look at, for synonyms, it'll say jealousy, envy. They're actually completely opposite emotions, you know? And so there's admiration and, you know, admiration and envy are synonyms. Okay, so
Yeah,
admiration is very close to is very close to envy, and in fact, sometimes what looks like admiration is actually cloaked envy. So, but when you're
Yeah.
looking at this, it's like cult formation. Like Greg always says, get a grip on lighting's a cult. We're starting a cult, right? He always tells you that we're starting a cult. People are joining the cult, right? But so it has such a negative connotation. But I wonder what the opposite of a cult is, but they're actually very, very similar. Just one is not designed to fuel the ego of Ruth Kelly Waskett. It's actually to help the individual, right? That's working with you.
Yes.
And so that would be the fundamental difference. But the structure of it and how to create it is the same thing. Ruth's trying to start a cult, Greg.
Well, does the word cult doesn't
Wow.
it come from culture? Like that's the
No, I
all-encompassing
don't think
word,
it
right?
does.
It
I don't.
doesn't.
Maybe it does. Maybe it does. I
Maybe
don't
it's
know.
a
I,
derivative.
I,
I don't
I
know.
do think that there's a connection between the word cult and the word culture. And culture is something that has come to my mind so many times when we've been talking about the North Star at Horley, because culture is the key to this. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, you're right. The word cult has so many negative connotations. I really want to move away from that very quickly. But perhaps there's an emphasis on the positive the positive side of it. And I mean, the closest thing that I can think of to kind of the positive version of a cult is a spiritual movement. And obviously, what we're talking about here doesn't involve belief in higher powers or
Mm.
um, other kind of metaphysical dimensions. But what it does do is it does create a common purpose, which does have echoes of many religious movements, but we're not trying to override people's individual beliefs. And in fact, the policy has been formulated to try and capture the beliefs that we believe people already have in the firm, and the things that we think are already important to people that have even brought them to the firm in the first place. So hopefully that's what we're actually trying to do, is capture the beliefs of the vast majority of people. And we certainly don't want to create lots of people that have exactly the same beliefs, because that would be really, really boring as well. But yeah, we want diversity of thought. So it's really important that we have lots of different perspectives, but I think we can achieve that while still having a common purpose to what we do.
Very good. One last question I had. The Society of Light and Lighting. What exactly is that?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mm.
so I think you touched on it earlier in my bio. So the Society of Light and Lighting is part of CIBSE, which is a chartered institution. Um, but the Society of Light and Lighting in particular has a very interesting history, because it used to be the Illuminating Engineering Society of the UK. And of course, we've got the Illuminating Engineering Society of North America as well. So my quickest answer is, think of IESNA, and it's a bit like the equivalent of that in the UK. There are some differences though, because the SLL is, because it's part of this bigger institution. That institution has charitable status as well, so it's it not only not for profit, but it also has charitable aims, and those aims are around increasing awareness of light and the importance of light for anyone who's interested. So we are a membership organization, but we also intend to reach as many people as we can to help them understand the importance of light.
And
So
that's
what is
just in
being?
the UK, or is it
It
other
is a
places as
UK
well?
based it is a
Okay.
UK based organization, but we do have regional representation around the world, mainly in countries that have sort of quite strong links with the UK, sometimes because of former colonies. So we have a branch in Australia, New Zealand, we have a branch in Hong Kong, we have a branch in Ireland. We're always considering new branches as well, wherever we feel that there's an appetite for it.
What's the? Is that so? Are you in a volunteer role as president of the SLL?
Yes, it is. It is a volunteer role, and I mean, in fairness, it has to. Um, it's contingent on my employer being okay with it. So,
Mm.
luckily Horley are really happy for me to have
Mm-hmm.
this role this year. And I've been a vice president at SLL for 4 years. So it's not like you just suddenly, you sort of switch on your commitment and then switch it off again. It's very much something that's been going on, kind of gradually increasing over a period of years.
So, Greg limits the shows now, so we're not supposed to go past an hour. But I really want to have you on again to talk more about daylighting and some of the. I think we're just starting to get to know each other from that panel we did, of course, the Rico Light panel we did.
Yes.
I was listening to you on that, and we had bantered a little bit during the actual moderated session, and so I was like, we have to talk to Ruth, and then so I'd like to have you on again if you would agree to that down the road, a couple
I'd
months, three or
love
four
that.
months.
I'd love that,
Okay, great.
Michael. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
so
That
I
would be
think we have
great.
a
Yeah, I
lot
feel
more.
like we've just scratched the surface, haven't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I also want to talk more about SLL, and I just feel like there's this darkness initiative that the Nailed Board started last year inside the industry. So there's obviously the IDAs out there, but Nailed has really been pushing this idea of darkness restoration and preservation, and it's really, yeah, I think it's gaining traction, Greg. And so,
Mhm.
I'd like to talk to you guys more about that and a whole bunch of other things. But do you have any final
I'd love to hear
thoughts?
more about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, my final thought, I suppose, is one of the things that my current obsession is how do we let the general public know how to make healthy choices with light. So it's one of the things that I kind of identified in my presidential address when I became SLL president. And it's a conundrum because I think
Hmm.
without a huge marketing machine, it's actually quite difficult to create um, a message. And I'm very interested in organizations such as SLL because we're impartial, because we're not particularly. We don't have an agenda around selling anything or anything commercial. We have a great opportunity to give a kind of an unfiltered message to the
Hmm.
public about how they can make better choices or healthy choices. And I keep drawing the analogy with food. So that's my I guess my parting thought is about, can we make a successful campaign a bit like 5 a day, or don't eat
Hmm.
too much sugar? Can we do that with light? Is it possible?
I would say we can do it with darkness. If we just change the conversation to that, I think it's so important that we have darkness. But Greg, we're at the end here. We got to go to led-llc.com, brother, for light efficient design. So creative, those guys. What are they talking about today?
They're
Can't even
always one of the
remember. I'm
first
still
ones out.
hypnotized by Ruth and her cult. I'm joining.
the the LBI linear transformer, one light, unlimited possibilities, two
Oh
foot, three
yeah.
foot, 4 foot length, flex color, flex watt, dimmable, connects end to end, real easy. Power in one end, connect it, run a continuous row, easy to go, retrofit or new fixture. Get after it.
Light efficient design, folks, is always cooking up great products. Go to their website right now. There's so many cool things that those guys have for a host of different applications if you're trying to solve problems out there. So go to led-llc.com. That's right. Proud members of the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors. That's right. NAILD.org. Join us now. Get educated. Get associated. Serve your industry. That's right. We're not offering you any paybacks. You're going to join Nailed. You're going to pay Nailed because you want to serve the industry, because the industry needs you, sucker. That's right. So go to NAILD.org. And if you've made it to the end here, I know I speak on behalf of Greg and Ruth and Scott, the producer, and everybody else at Nailed. Hey, thanks for listening. We love you guys. Bye for now.